Welcome to Tehachapod, the City of Tehachapi's podcast, where we share conversations with local leaders, business owners, and community members. Don't miss an episode. Be sure to follow and subscribe to learn something new and discover ways to get involved in our community.
Welcome to Tehachapod. This is Nick Tanaka, and here today I have the pleasure of interviewing Thom Mills, a director who has worked in Tehachapi previously on I believe it's the 452 Tehachapi earthquake film. I'm getting a nod. And you have a new movie coming out called Lauderdale. Thom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you having me in to talk about the movie and talk about the maybe the indie film scene a bit.
Yeah, I would love that.
All right.
So the movie, it's called Lauderdale. Yeah. It's about Fort Lauderdale down in South Florida. Yeah. It's a little bit of a period piece, right?
It takes place 1980, and there's some flashbacks to 1979. So yeah, it's a period piece. We wanted to make a film that was that I remember of that era because it's sort of semi-autobiographical. But I didn't want to oversell it. You know, sometimes you'll see a 70s film and they're trying to hit you over the head with a mallet. It's 1979. So I wanted it to be a period piece, but not be like every frame has to remind people that it's 1979.
That makes sense.
So it has kind of a timeless quality, I hope. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about this semi-autobiographical, because it's a crime thriller.
It is a crime thriller. So the reason I use that term semi-autobiographical is the impetus for the story was true. Shortly after college in 1980, I went down to Florida. I was looking for a little time to have some beach time before starting my life, whatever that meant. So I went down to Fort Lauderdale, and I had a job at a little t-shirt shop on the beach, and I used to pass this building every day, which it looked to me like it was a hotel. It actually was. It was a small retail first-floor building with windows on the second floor. It was either apartments or a hotel, but it was closed. And I used to park my bike there every day. It was only a block from where I worked because they had a bike stand. And I would see in the window of the hotel, shadows, guys moving in there. There was something clearly going on in there. So I used to knock on the door because I lived 2 miles from the beach, and that was a heck of a drive on a bike every day. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I was like, maybe these are apartments I can rent. So I knocked on the door, and one day this big guy answers the door, and he said, "What do you want?" He was not a welcoming presence. And I said, "Are you guys renting rooms here? Is this open?" "No." Flat answer. Okay. Before I even had a chance to leave, another guy came up behind him who was the polar opposite. Smiling, warm, gregarious, glad to have company. His name is Nick in the movie. That's not what his real name was. And he asked me, what are you looking for? I said, "I live here. I'm looking for a room closer to the beach. Would you guys Yeah, we can work something out." So I lived with these guys for about 3.5 months. Never got too close to them. I would occasionally have a conversation with Nick in the lobby or on the roof where he spent most of his time. The reason he spent most of his time on the roof was that he never left the building.
Oh.
Never. The other guy, Tommy, the big guy, the unwelcoming guy, who always wore a sport coat, by the way, he would come and go. He would go and get lottery tickets. He'd get groceries. So these two were cousins, and I became the third part of this little triumvirate, and I came and go as I went. Over time, I got to understand that these guys were here because they had to be. They never told me much. They didn't tell me if they were of the mafiosa, if we believe that exists. They didn't tell me they were on the run, but to my 19-year-old mind, they were. So I lived with them for a while, and we had an interesting relationship. I asked Nick, why don't you go to the beach? I don't leave the building, that kind of stuff. One day I came home, they were gone, and that was it. That was the end of the history of Nick and Tommy. So since then, over 40 years ago, maybe 50 years, I percolated this story in my head about, okay, well, who are those guys? What were they running from? Why had they left New York? Why did Nick never leave the building? Why did Tommy always have a sport coat on? And it may have all been for naught, but to a screenwriter, it's a great, start for a story.
It's a great prompt.
Yeah. So I built that real story into this fictional story about this character named Hutch who starts in New York working at an Italian festival, has to get out of there because he gets in trouble with his bosses, flees to Florida to end up at the hotel that I just told you about, where he ends up living with two mafiosi who are on the run from New Yorkers. So no matter how far this kid tries to get away from trouble, he keeps stepping into it deeper. And that's the story.
So let's talk about your cast a little bit. So the Tommy character is played by Christian Shoop, and he's he's an intense guy. Just looking at his like headshots, it's like, oh, I'm in danger.
Yeah. So Christian Schupp is a giant of a guy, and you look at him and he's like, you don't want to mess with this guy. I'll tell you a funny story about that after. Sweetest guy in the world, of course, and he played this character to the hilt perfectly. A lot of restrained, like this is a guy you don't want to get too angry. Physically, you look at him and you see that guy coming. But when he talks to you, he's very, very well read. He's a deep thinker and a classic great actor that can turn the role. He's doing very well for him. By the way, now my lead is John Gargan. He plays Hutch. Yeah. So we had a small cast. I think a great cast. Took us a while to cast. To cast for over a year between New York, Florida, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. Wow. Yeah, I knew that we were going to shoot the movie in Florida. That was always the goal, to go back to Fort Lauderdale, shoot it where the story came from.
Get it on location.
Right. Fort Lauderdale, quickly I realized, was not going to work out because it did not look anything like the city that I had lived in. When I was there, Fort Lauderdale was a very blue-collar kind of a beach town, low-rise buildings, felt affordable. It felt like, real people would go here, whatever real people are. It now has become Miami. All high-rise buildings, all those low-rises are gone. So I went there and I was like, this doesn't even feel right. So I ended up going across the coast to Tampa, St. Pete, actually, beach, which did very much capture what the East Coast of Florida felt like all those years before. Spent a lot of time there casting, looking at crew, just couldn't find locations. And it was sad because I so wanted to shoot on a hotel across the street from a beach. And there were places there, but the difficulty was asking a hotel to shut down for essentially 2 weeks so we could rent it on an indie budget, by the way.
Yeah.
Just don't run your hotel for 2 weeks, And that didn't work out.
Yeah, it's a hard ask.
It's a hard ask. They think when you say you're making a movie that you're Warner Brothers. At first, they're all like, yes. And then when you tell them what your budgets are, they're like, no. So long story short, we shot the movie in Los Angeles.
You guys ended up shooting a little bit in like Huntington Beach?
Yeah, we did some of our beach scenes are shot right on the beach in Huntington. They were very welcoming, actually, to do that, although it was quite a distance from where our production vehicles were to where we shot, so we were hauling a lot of gear on our shoulders. Ooh. Yeah, they wouldn't let us bring the truck out onto the beach. But they were great. All the hotel scenes, so we constructed a rooftop in a green screen studio, and we shot all of the scenes. Most of the movie takes place in the hotel, on the roof, in a green screen environment. I went down to Florida and shot the back plates, the footage of their POVs, and it came out well. I mean, I'm not a VFX person might look at our green screen and go that it's fine, and it doesn't take you out of the movie. But I wish I would have had more green screen experience myself.
Yeah,
but we pulled it off.
I always have a problem with green screens. Now, granted, I am a little colorblind, so that will aid in that. But I have, the listener can't see, but I've got kind of fluffy hair.
Yes, you do.
And it's so hard to key. It's very, and then you get the pixelation in it, and I've given up on it almost entirely.
Honestly, the green screen aged me because, I did hire a green screen expert to be on set with me, so to save me some trouble that I'd hit later in post, because that's where green screen bites you in the butt, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we did all the green screen as best we could when we shot. And then when we edited the film, we got the green screen just below cringeworthy.
Okay.
And I had a premiere, and I literally was like this as I watched the green screen. So I realized before this film was going to go any further, I had to invest more money that I didn't have to redo the green screen in post. So I hired 3 separate VFX artists to get it as good as it could get. And the ultimate compliment I got was one of the people at the premiere, who was a VFX guy himself, who was very kind about the movie, but not too kind about the VFX, called me after he saw the last cut and said, "What did you do?" And that's all he had to say was, if we got it good enough for him not to give me a hard time, because he's very honest, I was like, the general people watching the film are going to be pleased with it. And I can watch it now, and it doesn't stop me.
It doesn't hurt you.
It doesn't hurt. And it did for a while.
And it's so much harder when it's like your piece of art, because you see every freckle on it. So you're like, oh, no, not that mole. Oh gosh. But then the average audience goes in and they don't even know.
It's so true, Nick. Because you will focus on that giant screen or small screen, whatever you're watching it on. You will focus on that one pixel that is not working. Meanwhile, your actor's giving a brilliant performance.
Yeah.
The music's gorgeous, but no, that pixel is going to be the death of me.
Oh, absolutely. Now, did you guys on set, did you guys do like the counter lighting? Because the green spill, the opposite, I believe, is like the orange. So they do like a little bit of like an orange backlight on everyone just to like maybe nullify a little bit of the green.
I don't recall, no, this is 2023 now. I don't recall any orange backlight.
Okay.
I do know there were a lot of things done with flags and counter lighting to mitigate those effects, right? And because some you don't really see on set or even in the monitor. It's only when you get into post that you see the spill, right? We had plenty of spill that we encountered in post and that we had to clean up, as I was just telling you, right?
Yeah.
That was not visible on monitors or on the set. Everybody looked good. I said to my DP in the beginning, and he had more green screen experience than I did, but not much more. I said, look, I'm going to do as much research as I can on green screen before we get in there. My focus, my strong point as a director is directing talent. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to lean on you to get as much right as you can. We brought in somebody to advise us. And we did everything we could to keep the actors away from the green screen as far as we could. It was a small studio. That's the key, right? Is that
Keeping them as far away from that
Right.
green so it doesn't get...
right? You know, 2 feet can make all the difference in the world. So we were always riding that line. How far can we get them away? But we can't get them too far away because the studio's only 1,200 square feet or whatever it was. So you can only do so much on set. You can light as best as you can. But when you're shooting 12 pages a day like we were, you know, most
12, that's an insane number.
It was insane if we were shooting in a room that was pre-lit and all we had to do was say action and go. So we were doing green screen, 12 pages a day. I was literally ripping up pages and saying, what can I live with? What can I not take out? An incredible small crew, but you know, for you and I know, maybe some people don't know that like a Hollywood film, they're very content if they shoot half a page to a page a day. That's a good day for them. Indie film, if you can get 6 or 7 pages, that's a pretty good day. So we had a 120-page script and we had 12 days to shoot it, whatever. Do the math. It ended up being 12 pages a day on some days, 10 pages on the easy days, you know? And often that meant 3 different locations. So like we like running from Huntington, shooting in the morning or 5 hours on Huntington, driving 30 miles to get to another location, and then getting back to LA for the soundstage for 2 or 3 scenes. So,
And are you shooting chronologically?
as often as I could, because I like to keep my actors comfortable that, like, remember the last scene where we just had the gun pointed at someone's head? Well, this is right after it. So yes, but more often than not, no, because it just doesn't. I mean, you have 20 green screen scenes, right? And you have the green screen and they're not chronological in the story, but you have the green screen stage rented for 3 days. So you have to shoot out of order.
Yeah.
Which really was very challenging to think about because our lead character, Hutch, when you see the film, you'll catch this. He does a hair change color when he's trying to disguise himself. So we had to really think that through because his hair is not only blonde and long in some scenes, but short and brown in others. So one screw up there, once we gave the guy the haircut, we're really messed up.
You're locked into the haircut.
Yeah. So yeah, we tried to do things as chronological as possible, contingent on whether that made sense with our rentals for locations and what we had to do with physically with our actors. So that was a balancing act.
You would consider yourself more on the actor side of directing?
100%.
How was it directing someone who is essentially you at a younger age? Because Hutch is kind of the analog character for your experience at the hotel with Nick and Tommy.
Yeah.
Did it feel kind of weird being like,
It was-
all right, younger me?
Yeah. It was like when I first cast John, who is amazing, a New York actor. We hit it off personality-wise, and I was looking for. I didn't want somebody to imitate. First off, he wouldn't have known me at 19, and you can look at me at 60 and say, well, I can get an idea what he was like, but I was different at 19.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see the essence of me in him, and he had that already, and yet he was different too, which is cool. So I told him as much as I could about how I remembered I felt at that time, but I didn't put too much on it because I wanted to see what he brought, And I think he caught the things which were like I was always kind of a thinker, like what's going on around me, And he had that innately as a person and as an actor. And by about the second or third day, we were like sort of like bobbing the same way when we talked to each other, and sort of like he definitely became me. And I didn't really have to tell him, well, I would have done this, or I just let him go with it, and he got it right. He just got it right. I mean, that's talent that actors have. So it was kind of weird directing him, maybe for a day, because you realize, right, I'm trying to get him to be me, but then I totally forgot about that, because I was able to.
Because he was now embodying the character. That's Hutch.
Yeah.
Hutch is different.
Yeah, he did, and he really also caught like sort of the cockiness, I hate to say it, of a 19-year-old who gets humbled really quickly. Because when you're 19, you gotta think you know everything.
Well, you're still invincible. You're a teenager still. You haven't hit 20. You're not
Exactly. And then there's a different kind of like arrogance when you're I hate to say it, in your early 20s. Life does humble you, and that's not a bad thing. It just teaches you, So he caught that, but he also caught within that 12-day period of being on the other end of that, being like, I have no control of anything going on around me. And that's not easy. It's not easy for anybody in 30-day film, let alone a 12-day film. Yeah, he did an amazing job, as did Christian, as did Austin, who plays Nicky, and Aiden Sky, who plays Candy, and our favorite gangster, Joe Shambrello, who plays Mr. J.
And
no full name needed. Mr. J.
Mr. J is enough.
Yeah.
If your name is getting abbreviated and it gets a Mr., that's a dangerous person.
I have to thank Quentin Tarantino for that.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Pink, Mr. Orange. So speaking of other directors, where do you think, for someone who has seen a lot of gangster films, gangsters can be played so many different ways. You can have a little more of the comedic side. You could have more on the intense side. Where do you think the film kind of lands in gangster land? Yeah,
well, here's the thing. It is a gangster movie, but it is completely not a gangster movie. Like, whatever it was going to be, I wanted it to be real. I love every kind of gangster film. That is my sweet spot. I don't care if it's Scorsese or Tarantino or going back older films. It doesn't matter. I love a good, solid Goodfellas, and I love something that might be over the top comedic. Love mob films. I didn't want this to be a parody. I didn't want it to be a satire. I didn't want any these Dems and those guys. I wanted it to be real. So yes, it has gangster elements in it. You could call it a gangster film, and some people have. But it's also a buddy film. It's also a thoughtful character study about life's decisions that we make and how they affect us. And so it's a stew of different films, you know what I mean? And I didn't want people to come away thinking it's just another gangster film, although there's plenty of elements of that in it. It takes place with mob guys, obviously. But to me, it's a coming-of-age film about a guy finding out who he is and what he really wants to be as a person. Does he want to be somebody that's in that world, or does he want to find another calling in his life? So I think it has elements of a lot of different genres. So I just call it a character study. And you take from it what you will.
So Sam Esmail, the guy who does the Mr. Robot series, he does this thing where he takes the camera and he's like a mile that way, and he lets the characters have so much headroom and so much room around them in the scene. For sure. It almost feels like a theater production. That would be more your...
Yes, I know where you're going, but I mean, yes, when possible. For instance, getting back to the fact that we shot 12 pages a day, right? We rehearsed in a theater for a week before we shot the movie, because I knew I said action on day one, we were going to be shooting 1, 2, or 3 takes maximum, and then we're moving on, right? So I told my actors, look, I wish we could delve into the intricacies of this particular scene for a week. No, we've got 2 hours. So get your lines. Number 1, be off book. Number 2, know your characters, and hopefully we'll nail it. And they did more often than not. So we did shoot like a lot of oneers, basically staged it like a play when we could, like our scenes in the lobby. That lent itself to that, right? Having a very nice angle for our master and having the actors work in and out of frame, right? So that worked. Doesn't work for some other scenes where you really need coverage. So whenever I could shoot it wide, with a master, knowing I could punch in and editing if I needed to, I did that. When I knew I needed coverage for close-ups or 2 shots or overs or whatever, we did that. But we knew, again, that 12 pages, we could not cover this every scene with close-ups and 2 shots and overs and moving cameras and dollies. We selectively chose those shots when we could do them.
Yeah.
We have a couple really great dolly shots, and they're kind of special because we didn't overdo those. So yeah, and I get the whole idea of sometimes you put the camera down the block, with a long lens. There's a reason. Those choices really can't be random. They might be when you first start making movies because you think, I think it'd be cool to put the camera down the block. But why are you putting it down the block?
What kind of message are you conveying by flattening your image this way?
Correct.
It looks a little more storybook now. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Correct.
Oh, I have so much more distance, or I'm bringing something closer. Because when you put on the longer lens, everything in your background gets a lot closer to you.
It's like the train coming up your back; it's about to hit you, and there's really a difference. And I'm still learning this. You never stop learning, right? Like, I'm an actor's director, so I know how to operate the camera. I've DP'd some of my own smaller projects, but I'm still learning, like, why do I choose a 35 millimeter lens here versus a 50? Mm-hmm. Not a huge difference, but a difference. Mm-hmm. And until you see those images side by side and see the performance with them, then it starts to click. That's why. And you forget sometimes. Like, I could shoot a whole movie. You could shoot a whole movie on a 35 millimeter lens. Easy. Mm-hmm. You can push it in and pull it back and make it work. But when you have an array of lenses to work with, it just opens up the emotional aspect of the film so much more. So, yeah.
Do you have any limits on focal lengths? Like, do you have like a hard fast rule? Like, okay, I'm not going to go to 10 mil, and I'm not going to go to 200 mil. I want to stay within a certain range, just because I feel like you'll be pulled out of the movie if I do anything else.
Yeah. No, I would say no because if I say I would never shoot on a like 10 millimeter, and I don't think I ever have. And the next film I do, there's going to be a reason I need to do like that shot. So I would say no. I would say most of the time, since I do actor pieces, I'm staying between 25 to 85 most of the time. But I could absolutely see where a certain shot, a nice 200 mil or even 300 mil would be great from the top of it. Yes, it depends on the project, right? Never going to put a limit on myself on that. But if you told me, Tom, you're going to make a movie and you've got one lens to choose, what's it going to be? It's going to be the 35.
And it's the perfect lens.
It's a perfect lens.
It can pretty much do anything you need it to do. If you have a good 35 prime, you're good.
You got it. And you hit the nail on the head there, prime.
Yes.
I mean, because you can work with a telephoto lens or whatever. It goes from 10 up to 600, and you can make it work, but it suffers. You need fast glass, you need prime lenses. They make all the difference in the world.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of gear, what sort of stuff are you shooting on? I personally, I have an FX3, and I have some Tamron lenses. Those are my zooms. And then I have a really nice Samyang 35 prime. And then I have some really oddball Viltrox lenses.
Oh, yeah, I know they're Viltrox.
Yeah, they come out with the goofiest stuff. So I'm like,
but it
okay.
can be cool.
It can be cool.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, you know what? And they're usually really inexpensive. Like they dropped like a $99 20 mil prime. And I was like, why not? And for $99, sure, why not? And it gets some weird kind of images, and it's small enough that you can affix like cell phone modifiers to it. Which, not that cell phone modifiers are the peak of quality or anything, but you get a fun little image out of it. But yeah, what sort of equipment are you running with?
So, okay, there's equipment that I have. So I have a production company that's really Redondo Beach based, but I'm also partially Tehachapi based because I've done some projects up here. So when I'm shooting something myself, which might be me as the director and DP, or me as the director and producer, I bring in a DP. I use my own gear, which is I usually shoot most of my stuff on a Blackmagic 4.6.
Okay.
Ursa Mini, which I love. I mean, Blackmagics are incredible. And they're budget friendly. Now, what I've learned, though, is save some money on your camera, because I don't care what you shoot on. Tangerine, cell phone, for instance. It's the story that matters first off, right? Get a good camera, something that's passable, that you can focus, and invest the money in the lenses, right? Whether you buy them or rent them. You don't have to buy lenses. I got to a point where I realized it's better for me at this point to buy some lenses. So I invested in some Canon Cineprimes. I have 3 lenses. I have a 35, I have a 50, and I have an 85. That's what I keep in my kit. Serves me almost for everything I need. Now, if I need a longer lens, I'll rent it. If I need a wider lens, I'll rent it, and I'll add it to my kit. But generally, I'm shooting on the one of the Blackmagics. I have a couple of Blackmagics. I'll also have the Pocket. It has a second camera. We were going to use it for Lauderdale, but we ended up shooting on a red Komodo.
Oh.
Which was really nice. And we used my lenses, and we used my DP's lenses, which I forget what he was shooting with lens-wise, but it was okay because we had a New York look and we had a Florida look.
Oh, okay. So what?
yeah.
Okay, so what's the difference between the New York and Florida look?
Well, and again, it just wasn't the lens; it was also lighting and framing and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But the Florida look was hazier, not nostalgic, but it was sort of breathed a little more. The New York stuff was sharper. It was really more about the color than anything else. But basically, we went for more saturation for Florida. In New York, we tried to make it almost feel like a black and white film without it being a black and white film.
Feels more noir.
Yeah, noir-ish, I guess. Yeah, and we let the lights sort of. We used a lot of heavy keys. You know what I mean? For the dramatic scenes. So it was a color and just trying to make the outdoor scenes feel real without being overly lit.
And I love that the dichotomy between the New York and Florida.
Yeah.
And you even have that in the poster, which is just so striking. It's an amazing poster with and the way you describe the haze, that absolutely comes through in the poster. It's the warm haze of Florida, and then the really contrasty sharpness of New York is
That's
very
the word
much
I was
seen.
looking for. Contrast.
Yeah.
For sure. And the contrast was really crisp on New York, and we opened it up obviously for Florida. But thank you for the haze, because you're right. And we did a lot of really wide shots for the Florida stuff, like on Huntington Beach, and just literally the air, you can feel it, you can almost see it. You know what I mean? It feels kind of wavy and distant and kind of nostalgic. So.
I mean, Fort Lauderdale at the time, smaller town. It felt a little more open. It feels like, no, okay, I have a little bit of room here, but then New York, it's very claustrophobic.
Exactly. Tighter lenses. We definitely did more close-ups in New York. Less moving camera in New York. When you stop a camera and you shoot a still, it draws your attention. So something's going to happen here, or something should happen. Mm-hmm. Florida, I kind of moved the camera a little bit more. Made it a little more of this, show more of the world. New York was kind of about what's happening. Uh-huh. What's this guy across from me about to do? That kind of stuff. So nothing's perfect, some shots I kind of wish I'd punched in a little tighter on that one. And you can do that digitally, but I hate to do it. I hate to do it in post. If I need a close up, I want to get it on set. More often than not, when somebody punches in from a wide to a close up, it's what we call Hollywood pop in. It does the job, but you
can tell it's the amount of pixels that are in there. It's the amount of information, the sharpness of it.
Exactly.
And especially if you've spent the whole movie on one lens, you get very comfortable with the way that lens looks at that distance. Yeah. You as the audience get comfortable with it. And then when you get one of those punch-ins, you go, oh, okay, that was different. Well, what's going on with that? Yeah. And maybe that would work in a scene if you're like, oh, maybe something's off. Something feels
if it's
weird
intentional, sure.
It could be an intentional thing, but so often than not, it's like, oh gosh, can I just get a little closer? Let's see if anyone notices.
Well, that's why angle changers are so important, right? Whenever you can, move the camera even a little bit. Mm-hmm. You can shoot literally two masters or three masters. Just move the camera slightly, because then if you did need to pop in from master A to a close-up or a two-shot, if you use the second master as your pop-in, it's an angle change, it's something. But the rules are there, and you will break them, and sometimes the things that you break and do wrong are the most interesting things about the film. So experiment, independent filmmakers, experiment, and put the camera on the ground when you think it should be in the air if you have time to do it, and see what happens, because that's the beauty of indie cinema. You can kind of learn the rules and then break them, except in their important scenes, and then just shoot them just clean. And be careful how much you move. I'm not a huge fan of shaky camera, which of course would not have worked in this at all, because we wanted this to feel visually like a 70s movie, which meant a lot of wide shots, two guys standing on the beach.
And cameras were heavy then. They were not running around with them.
Yeah, I didn't want this kind of stuff. So shaky camera's cool, but don't overdo it. You know what I mean? And I don't know if we're gonna have time to talk about vertical filmmaking, which is not my forte, but where everything's in close up. No matter what you're shooting for, still try to shoot it like a movie.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
For our processes here, a lot of the stuff realistically ends up as vertical content.
Yeah.
But I come from very much the documentary cinema kind of background. Right. So it was wildly uncomfortable for me. And I was hitting up my friends, and a lot of them come from a very similar background to me, and then ended up in corporate world, right? What they were doing was essentially just using their normal camera, and they were just shooting horizontally. they were shooting in like 4K or 6K and they were cropping it. And I thought, like, there's so much wasted space on the left and right, and this is not real. Like, how usable is this realistically? So I actually convinced them to go with a square form factor camera. So that way, if you're in frame and it looks okay, then you're probably good for vertical and horizontal.
Okay.
At once I actually go in and crop you down to what realistically 4K is actually going to be on this camera.
Interesting.
Because it's not a 6K camera, but it is pretty darn close to being a 6K camera.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I've been operating, and like, you know, we're only exporting in 1080p. So like really it doesn't even need to be 4K. But that seems to be the mode. Like shooting for square will, just by the nature of shooting that way, get you into vertical and horizontal just at the same time.
It's great. It's great. I mean, that's advice to me, because I don't do vertical, but if I do now, I've got some tips. Thank you.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I'll share some secrets with you later on when we turn off the podcast.
And by the way,
square
you just reminded me of something. Like, okay, so 4K, 6K, 8K, whatever, wherever we're headed. Just keep this in mind. Okay, shoot in as high res as you can, that you're comfortable with. Okay, don't worry about 8K, but whatever you're going to shoot, when you like, we'll talk about distribution in a little bit, right? What I had to have my film ready for selling it and showing it to the public, it all gets downscaled anyway. Okay, so when I had to hand in my master, right? It's 1080. People don't. I mean, Netflix might want 4K, really want it. You know what I mean? And you have that as your master to go to. Most people, from Amazon to Apple TV, they don't want it.
They're just looking for 1080, like a good 1080p, and that's
Shoot it in 4K or 6K, okay? Get your highest quality, and then when you export it, it's not going to be in 4K, okay? And I'm not even sure that, honestly, Netflix is really looking for 4K most of the time. They're looking for a great story. Most distributors, they don't want it.
Because it's now like, the majority of people watching movies are not watching movies strictly on the largest screen possible. Right. They're watching it at home.
That's right.
They spent the time, they spent the money, and they have a wonderful living room now. And they have their surround sound. That I know that's what I have at home. Yeah. I have a wonderful TV with great surround sound, and I try to watch every single movie I possibly can on that thing. That's the mode now. Yeah. So, and they're not going to want to transport a 4K file. They're not going to want to stream a 4K file to you. That is a lot of extra compute that they don't want to have to deal with.
No. And they don't need it. And then the people, all of the channels or streamers that are buying stuff, they have a lot of content. And that all takes up a lot of space on their facilities where they're keeping all this stuff. So they just want it good enough that it looks good. And so I know people are freaking out, like, I've got to have 8K. No, you don't. You just don't. But you have to shoot it in this high quality. 4K is enough.
So you mentioned distribution.
Yeah.
So I know we can find this on Amazon.
Yeah.
Where else can we find it?
So my distributor gave me like a dream deal for a first time low budget film without, I hate to use the word star, without A-level actors in it. So they've got us right now, as of today, pretty much everywhere other than Netflix. So we're primarily on Amazon. We're on Apple TV. We're on Sling. We're on Spectrum On Demand. We're on Xfinity. We're on Fandango. Domestically, we're on many different sources. If you look up Luderdale, Luderdale, probably Amazon's the most accessible for most people. But we're kind of everywhere, and now we're just starting to step out to look for international distribution, which is a separate deal. So we are in Europe in a few English-speaking regions, but other than that, Asia and what have you, which is a huge market for indie cinema, we're just stepping into that now. But yeah, I must say Amazon would be the easiest place, or Apple TV.
And what is it like working with a distribution company? What sort of things are, I know that there is a healthy filmmaker community in Tehachapi, so they're definitely thinking in the future. Yeah. What sort of stuff are they going to want to do in like the production or pre-production side in order to make sure that your distribution company is not actively mad at you when you show up with your film?
They will be mad at you because you will not believe the kind of stuff they require that to sell your movie. Okay, so number one, nothing sexy about it, but keep great records of everything. Make sure you're insured. If you actually plan on taking your movie beyond showing it to family and friends, have insurance when you make a movie. And there's a lot of options, even for indie filmmakers, okay? Because when it comes to selling it, you have to have E&O insurance, things that you need to protect your distributor from potential future lawsuits. So keep immaculate records. Like, if you use one clip of one song for 15 seconds, make sure you keep all these things, because when you put together what they call your deliverables, aside from handing them your film, they're going to want to know every sound clip, when it came in, when it went out. This is like making the movie a third time. When I got to distribution, that was the hard part, honestly. So all the records, all the contracts. Like, don't say to your friend Joe, hey, you can work on my movie, Joe, today. Just come on in and do a few lines. Because when you hand that movie, and they're going to look at all the contracts of the actors, whether you paid them or not, doesn't matter. But they're going to want to see a contract from him, because, sorry, filmmaker, we can't sell the movie to Amazon unless everybody on that screen has a piece of paper saying they were. So keep all your paperwork.
Get your releases.
Not fun stuff, but important stuff when you come to selling the film. And, I learned, we missed a few things, but we were able to rectify them. So you'll never probably get everything that your distributor wants the first pass, but you'll get it if you're going to sell the movie. Mm-hmm. Because they put it through a system of checks and balances. And everybody's different. Like, Amazon has their own level of what they need to see beyond a great movie. Mm-hmm. Apple TV or Google Play might be different. So just have all your stuff, keep all your records, either do it yourself or have a great co-producer or somebody just dedicated to that. Get insurance to protect yourself, because you cannot sell your film without having had production insurance when you made the movie, and having, you're familiar with E&O?
I'm not familiar.
Okay, so that's the big one for distributors. E&O is errors and omissions. So let's say that you made your movie and everything's done properly, and all of a sudden you found out, well, the guy that you thought gave you that sound clip or sound effects library wasn't really his. So that company can come back and say, wait a minute, we own that clip. He didn't sign a deal with us. E&O is insurance saying, okay, maybe we don't really know who owns this clip, but this guy seems to have the chain of command on it. So that E&O pays that policy off.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and you have to keep these policies going after the fact, because like I have a 5-year contract with my distributor. So my insurance just came up last week, a matter of fact, E&O again. And my wife, who is a producer and much smarter than I am, said, well, we've got to sign the E&O. I'm like, we already did E&O. We don't. Yes, we do. We have to do it next year and the year after and the year after through the process of selling the movie. It's a business, right? And I'm a filmmaker. I'd rather just be out not thinking about the business. I want to be thinking about my lens and my actors.
Yeah.
But the reality of the business is you have to put on your adult pants and treat it like a business if you're planning on getting your films out there in the world. And I think most of us want our films to be seen,
Before we turned on the mics, we were talking a little bit about the film culture and kind of how things have changed from what I've experienced over the past decade and kind of what you experienced going over to these different areas, especially when doing your casting and stuff. You were saying that like the Atlanta and Tampa filmmaker communities are very different than the LA community.
Yeah, they are. We just came back from Tampa, where we in December actually, the Tampa Bay Underground Film Festival, beautiful smaller fest, and Lauderdale actually won the best feature film there, and some really amazing films. And our Joe Chambrello, who plays Mr. J, won Best Supporting Actor.
Congratulations!
Yeah, we're really happy for him and for the film. But one thing I saw there is like we made our movie for roughly $250,000, and that was a stretch shooting in LA to get it done. We didn't do SAG; we went non-union. But we paid our actors actually more than SAG actors. We can talk about that if you want. But we paid everyone a fair wage, and we made a movie. We squeaked in for $250,000, and it was not easy, let me tell you. I went down to Florida and to Tampa, and I was talking to a lot of filmmakers down there who had some pretty polished films. And, some of these filmmakers have made 7, 8, even 10 feature films. They're making a film a year. And my mind was kind of blown away. Now, because some of the films you could say, I could see how they made that one fast. But some were like, these production values are incredible. Acting's incredible. Cinematography's incredible. Sound's incredible. How? Like $10,000 we made that one.
$10,000 is nothing for a film.
Yeah, no, and they're going to make another one next month for $10,000. So it turns out Tampa and a lot of smaller cities have a much more supportive film group. Like, so I'll DP your film this time. If you'll DP my film next time, can you act in my movie this time? I don't think people are making a lot of money as far as salaries. It's a lot of volunteer time. Some of the films are paying people, but they're putting out a lot of projects. And the hope is that we all develop our skills. We all get better each time, and maybe one of these films becomes a breakout, and ends up playing at a slam dance or getting some international attention. So they're working more than most LA filmmakers are. They're keeping busier, and there's no substitution for keeping busy. Like
absolutely.
Your filmmaker crew here in Tehachapi, and you mentioned this, is if you're out there every weekend filming, you're doing more than most people are doing, rather than sit around pondering what's my next project, because you forget really fast, like, what button is the button I'm supposed to push for record. I mean, the basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
You have to review it every time. If you're busy all the time, it's like you're like a machine, and you're getting better. I was kind of jealous, and I said that to the group of Tampa filmmakers. We had a nice panel. I said, you guys are working all the time, and that's what we kind of want in LA. So forget about this theme of I've got to go to LA to be a filmmaker. No, in fact, if I was 25 today, this is not where I would be coming. I'd been doing a production company in Tehachapi or Bakersfield or Tampa or Sacramento. And I'm not talking, obviously you can live anywhere and shoot a movie on a phone, but I'm talking about you can go almost anywhere in this world now and get quality lenses delivered to you. Probably have a Blackmagic or a camera shop that have Blackmagics and Reds available for rental. So Hollywood will be glad to look at your movie if you've never come within 1,000 miles, if you make a film that they have to see,
If it's quality, they'll come.
Better believe it. And they do. They do.
Have you heard of Joel Haver by chance? He's very much on YouTube and on the indie animation side of things. He does really cool rotoscoping animations. But
I haven't, to answer your question.
Last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, he did a challenge where he made a feature film every month for a year, and he did it. And it's not just, two people in a room just talking. It's a stop motion animation. It's a romantic comedy. It's a road trip movie. He tries to hop as many genres as possible.
Okay.
And the thing that he's been coining it as is improv filmmaking, where the amount of pre-production he does is way, way lower.
Okay.
He is looking for people that he knows he can riff with or people that he's worked with in the past who he knows can riff. So he's pulling actors not from your traditional theater backgrounds, but more from the improv scene. Not just to see like, oh, are you funny? It's more of just, hey, do you know how to just be a character real quick?
Is he from here? Sure.
He's not from here. He operates down in LA, but the film thing that I was telling you about from 2 weekends ago was a film festival that he put on.
Okay, good.
Where you're doing these rapid shoots. Like, hey, you only have 3 hours to shoot. Go. That's it. 48-hour film festival is like that too.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
I love the 48-hour film festival. We entered a couple of times last year, and
good.
We did pretty good. We got into the best of, so that was kind of fun.
Way to go.
We did it both times, and our crew was tiny. You saw these films that were like 30, 40 people showing up to these sets, and then there's some ragtag group of like 7 people from Tehachapi, and we were kicking butt.
Good.
Suddenly they're looking around the room and they're like, wait, where the heck are these people from?
Where's Tehachapi?
Where's Tehachapi? That was really exciting to me that I could kind of shout out when we went there.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The question I was going to ask is about iteration. My buddy down in LA, his name's Bill Boudel.
Okay.
He's an editor and he's working for a company down there who doesn't do second takes as a rule. And the reason why is because they try to get features done in 6 days.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with these kind of projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, granted, that you're not going to get the most polished movie. Absolutely not.
Right.
But it's definitely reps. You are getting way more shoot days in and finishing way more projects. If you're saying, no, we don't get second takes, you have to get it right.
I mean, I get it and I don't get it. Like, given that, people thought it was crazy that we would only give actors 3 or 4 takes. I always knew in the back of my mind that if the scene wasn't right, and it was a pivotal scene, that I'd obviously make room for more, right? So I personally could never make a project that way myself. It might work great for another person. God bless you. Too much pressure on the talent if there's scripted lines.
Yeah.
If it's improv, sure. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But for scripted, no one. I mean, there are some films, I'm not going to name the production companies, but they're well known and successful that will come on set with 8 or 9 cameras and shoot every single and every master and every 2 shot in one, right? And they knock out a lot of B movies, which are very successful, probably all in the 100 to 500,000 range. They shoot them in 6 days. Same kind of idea, but they're not single takes. But they're getting an amazing amount of coverage in each take.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it. But with the example you gave me of the one take, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of films that are going to be like, oh my God, they should have done a second take there. But they might get some right. And if it's working for them, why not?
Yeah.
I personally couldn't work that way. It wouldn't be fair to anybody, because there's going to be a light that's going to fall over. Mm-hmm. Or somebody's going to walk through a shot.
Inevitably.
Or a cell phone is going to go out, which you can deal with the cell phone in post. But you got to remember, you might have taken 6 months to write your script. Mm-hmm. So you've got to give it at least a little time to shoot it.
Yeah.
And
because filmmaking is not just the shooting. It's not just the acting. And this is the thing that I love about movies.
Yeah.
It is you can get the maximum amount of artists from the widest variety of mediums together in a movie, because you need costumes, you need makeup, you need musicians, you need actors, you need photographers, you need editors, there are so many artists involved. I don't remember the director who said this, but every movie is a miracle. Just the fact that a movie ended up getting made at all. We got that many people to work together to make a movie.
It's so true. This is not the profession for a lone wolf. No. You can be a lone wolf personality, but you've got to hire great people. If you want to be in there and run the whole show, then maybe you should be making a solo produced documentary. But if you're going to make a feature film, you're going to deal with a lot of artists, and you have to respect everybody, because not everybody is going to think exactly like you. They're going to bring things to the table but I want that. I want people. I always try to hire people that are more experienced than me in every department, right? I know I can handle myself and hold my own, but I want to learn something from every department every time. I want to be challenged in a respectful way. I'm like, you'll never on my set hear like a yelling set or an argumentative set. There will be disagreements, but those type of personalities will never last in a Tri-Spec Films production. So there's a way to do things and there's a way not to do things. But I want better people than me in every department, and I usually get them. They'll be the first to tell you. But yeah, hire good people. Trust their opinions. You hired them for a reason, and let them teach you their specialties.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you said, they have their own vision. I'll give a shout out to Paul Saladino over at Tehachapi Terror.
Okay.
We have very, very different tastes in movies, in style. We have and I disagree with his creative decision-making on set all the time. Like ADing for him, because I give him like, hey, here's what I would do. Yeah. And then he'll look at it and he'll go, okay, I like that piece of what you're doing, but we're doing this. Mm-hmm. On the day, every single time, on the day, I'm like, I have no idea what this is going to look like, because I don't have the image in my head.
Of course.
And he proves me wrong every single time, and it's so amazing.
Yeah.
I love working with people who I disagree with, and I get proven wrong. I love that, because it expands what is, because I'm going to steal it, I like, oh, okay, I'm putting that in my back pocket. I see what you're doing here. I'm understanding your timing, the way that you're revealing characters, the way that you're revealing props. Love it. But yeah, shout out to Paul. He's dope. Everyone should watch all of his movies. And everyone should watch all of your movies as well.
I didn't see Tehachapi Terror. So okay.
Tehachapi Terror is the local haunted house that comes to town.
Oh, that's why I didn't see it on film.
Because it's not a movie.
That's another passion of mine, Halloween walkthroughs and any kind of immersive theater event. So
you have to go to Tehachapi Terror.
I will, next year.
Paul and Stephanie do such an amazing job. Yeah. Sorry, not a. Sorry.
No, I love Halloween season entertainment. I love year-round immersive entertainment, but that's a different thing that we're talking about today. But yeah, I've heard about Tehachapi Terror actually. Yeah,
they're great. To get back to Lauderdale.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We're talking about a movie called Lauderdale. Yeah. So it's not Lauderdale, it's Lauderdale. Why is it Lauderdale?
Okay, so at the time, 1980, Not that I partook, I didn't, but there's always been a drug du jour, through the mid-'80s, I guess we could say the Scarface were the cocaine years, and maybe the 70s were the pot years, and maybe 2020s were the pot years with every distributor. Anyway, but for a short period of time, right around 1980, there was a party drug called Quaaludes, which might have been the ecstasy of that time, who knows. And that was the popular drug. So I remember that there was a girl who used to walk on the beach in Fort Lauderdale and try to always sell people Quaaludes. And so I thought, let's take Fort Lauderdale and Quaaludes and push them together. So there is a small through line in the movie about Quaaludes, which we have a girl called Lude Girl who's sort of always appears in our story. She has her own little arc. But she runs into our lead several times, and she never seems to remember them, and always tries to sell them. So I don't want to say she's our comic relief, but she's sort of this character that comes and goes and sort of grounds the film in a different way.
That's your C-3PO coming in.
Yeah, basically. So I wanted to come up with a title that sort of caught the period, and that did. For people of a certain age will know that. Some other people may not. But and as far as Lauderdale, there was another film many years ago called Lauderdale, so I couldn't use that name. I could have used the name, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, you want to differentiate a little bit.
There are some people that actually will name a movie the same because you can't copyright a name for a film. I mean,
really?
Yeah, I mean there are many films that will use the same name. Now you will get press back if you try to make The Godfather tomorrow and call it The Godfather. You're going to get a lot of heat, but there are a lot of films that have similar or same names. And sometimes it could be even intentional because maybe people will
accidentally.
You'll rent that movie instead of so.
Was Lauderdale like a name that people called Fort Lauderdale at the time? Or is that
no,
really?
Yes, it was. Thank you for I totally forgot that. You would see T-shirts with Lauderdale on there. I went on spring break and all I came home with was Quaaludes. But it was over in a flash. It was of a time and a place for maybe a year. And then probably by 1982 people were saying, What are Quaaludes?
Yeah, they were over it. They were doing something else.
Yeah. But I remember that being sort of like the scene of the time, which I was not interested in personally, but it was like, okay. And who knew that I was going to make a movie with that title?
Yeah.
I'm an independent filmmaker, just like you're an independent filmmaker, and I guess most people that are going to listen this far into the interview are independent filmmakers. We have to support each other, right? Because, yes, a few of our films end up becoming big to-dos, and end up at the biggest film festivals. Most of them, we rely on each other to see them and share them and let people know about them. There's 1 million films on Amazon and elsewhere. We're going to be on Tubi starting next month. All I ask is look the film up as a lover of cinema. If you like it, hopefully you do, give it a rating. Very important because like on Tubi, there's like 200,000 films on Tubi. We're going to be on there in April, right? People don't know from Lauderdale. If you watch the film and take 5 minutes to do a review, even if it's a star review, if you want to write something even better, what you liked about it, it makes more of a difference in the professional world than you could ever possibly know. So a genuine interview. I never want anybody to watch my movie and say something they didn't mean. But if you found something about it that you think was good, important, memorable, write that down along with watching the film. And you're helping out not only independent filmmakers like myself, but you're helping yourself out ultimately because one of your films is going to be there at some point, and you're going to want Thom Mills to watch it and
leave an interview.
And I'll be glad to because we all know quality comes in at the lowest budget films and the biggest budget is Hollywood blockbusters. So we need to help each other out as filmmakers through film festivals, by attending film festivals, by watching films on obscure platforms, and also sometimes visiting Amazon. And IMDb. Are you familiar with IMDb?
I am, and you have a good rating on IMDb.
We're doing pretty good, but
they like you on IMDb.
We dropped a couple of points. I mean, it's funny when you only have 12 reviews. Like the next one really matters, So you hope it's a good review. The swing is incredible. Like we've done very well on Amazon so far, rental wise, but very few people leave reviews. That's just the fact of the world.
Yeah,
and they don't realize how important it is because. If we rented 800 or 900 times on Amazon, but you only have 12 or 20 reviews, those reviews are important. So if you see the film and like it, Lauderdale, please let the world know what you thought of it.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Nick.
Thom, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
This has been Tehachapod.
You've been listening to Tehachapod. If you have a question, a thought, or a suggestion, email media@tehachapecityhall.com. We'll catch you again soon, right here on Tehachapod.